You're right. Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Well, whoever's not here is going to be confused by the rest of this chat. It was a good one. It was a complex one, but so anyway, I'm sorry. Hi, welcome. If you're watching this replay, I forgot to tape the beginning of this, so you missed a lot of chatting about partnerships and creative energy, but welcome now. Love you guys. Sorry. Thank you, Katie, for telling me that this wasn't recording. Katie is 360 Assistant of the Year, actually. But yeah, that's just some of the stuff I wanted you to consider and think about, and know that your creative energy literally is your energy for creation. And the duality of universe allows it to be that it doesn't matter, right? Every aspect, every experience in life has two aspects of it, a light side and a dark side. And it doesn't really matter which aspect you learn the lesson from, because it's the same lesson. They just carry different vibrational feelings. So if you have the unfortunate experience of learning the lesson in the dark, the issue is the lesson was still learned. The only difficulty that comes with it is now, if we want to extract what we put into the vending machine with that experience, we have to shift. We have to at least come to neutral. And if not, I mean, in a better case, you'd be moving towards a positive or higher vibrational experience, so you can take out and extract what you put in. So does this make sense to everybody? Does anybody have questions about this? Because this is a little bit actually of a complex subject. So if you have questions, let me know.
Yes, me.
Yeah, what's up, Selena?
Hi, sorry for my voice. I'm still super sick. So I have a question about like this loss. Like, is it like you talked about something that you lose, but is that the same thing for maybe a feeling or someone that you lost, that you lose? I don't know how to say it. Like, it's the same thing.
It is the same. It doesn't matter. You know, universe and God, they don't deal in the physicality of a circumstance. They deal in the experience of a circumstance, in the energy of a circumstance. So whether you lose a dog or a best friend or your favorite car, it matters how it affects you, how it changes you, right? So I've heard people explain it that when you find an experience with something, whether it's another human being, whether it's a job you love, whether it's your pet, you create a bond with this person, right? The same way in chemistry class, we learn about bonds, right? And by the nature of the bond, both aspects that are both elements in the bond are changed by the nature of the bond. And so that's true with everything. I think for most people, we tend to find that with like other human beings, the bonds are stronger. But for some people who aren't wired that way, or who are heavily programmed, their bonds with money or finances are actually stronger than their bonds with people. So it doesn't really matter what it is that is in the losing season or in the winning season, because the circumstances don't matter so much. The specifics don't matter, right? So at the end of the day, your purpose in this life and on this earth is to learn lessons, right? That take you closer to understanding your purpose on the planet. So whether those lessons are learned through your dream car or through your dream date, it doesn't really matter. It just matters, are you getting closer to what you're supposed to be learning and what you're supposed to be uncovering? So we're talking more always on an energetic level than on like an exact circumstantial level. Does that make sense?
Yes, clearly. And I also have a question about what you said like before about creation. Like, I'm the kind of person who only create by myself. Like, I really don't like to be with people when I create. But sometimes like I feel like I need people's help to create something, but I feel like disturbed and bored when people are around me creating. I don't know how to say it, but like, you know, you want to be alone, but you feel that you need some help, but you cannot create with people. Like, this is so, I don't know how to explain. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, but I'll tell you what I always say, which is that if you only like to create alone, then that's an extreme. It's okay to prefer creating alone, and it's okay to do it more often than you create with help. But it's much better to not need things to be a certain way, but to have fluidity in the way that things are working. Because like you don't need help, but it's a better way to think of it that you desire to see the outcomes of other energies working collaboratively with you. I think ultimately that I've come to really understand that humans are not meant to be isolated. We are just not isolated creatures. And I think seeing what's happened over the last 2 years since the pandemic has hit, we're seeing that the experience of isolation from each other is deeply, deeply detrimental, not only mentally, but creatively as well. I don't know if you're seeing it, but unless people have someone close with them and are still creating with people, the quality of what people have been able to create on the planet is just not what it was when people were able to work creatively. At least that's what I'm seeing, right? Unless someone has a close partner, we're seeing great work from people like that. But the energy of isolation is just not really part of the human condition. We're tribal creatures, and we work best when we can link forces. You think about us a lot like X-Men, like we each bring something that is unique and that is valuable, but none of us have everything on our own. So when you find people that can complement the power you have with something they have, you're always going to be infinitely more successful. So what I would say is, when we have a fear or a resistance to creation with other people, whether it's friendships or conversation or just art, I think that's more fear, that we're afraid that we're going to not be able to work well together, or we don't know what to expect, or, we don't know how we're going to feel, or if someone's going to like us, or if we're going to like what comes of it. I think it's mostly that. I think we get comfortable and used to being alone because there's an aspect of safety. When you're by yourself, there's no one to judge you. There's no one to do something or say something you don't like. But that also just means there's also no challenge. There's nobody offering either a complimentary or conflicting vibration. So my feeling is just try to vary it, and try not even to think of things as help, but think of it as collaboration. If you, even in the case of if you're filming a video and you're dancing in the video and somebody's filming it for you, that's collaboration. That's not somebody helping you or serving you. It's a creation, right? It's somebody's eye and their ability to capture something and your talent behind the screen. That's the way, me and Typo always thought of it. He would say, when we would he would come out to shoot me, he would say, all right, let's dance together. And he wasn't dancing, obviously, but that's the way he felt, like we were dancing together. And he was on that side and I was on this side, and we had a creative, collaborative flow to it. It wasn't like, okay, I dance, I pay you, you film, and there's distance between us and it's this and that. It was a collaboration and emerging. And to this day, I still don't like the way anyone has shot my stuff compared to what he's done. And I know that that's the reason, because it's that mindset of somebody like working for you or helping you versus somebody immersed in something with you and offering their energy and their creativity. It's never going to be this. It's never going to have the same outcome as far as I'm concerned. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just dying right now.
Don't worry about it. Are you okay? How are you feeling?
I feel like today was the best day since I'm sick. But like, I felt super bad. Like, I was sleeping all day long, and my lungs were burning, and like I didn't have my voice yet. Like, it's lost completely, but I'm gonna find it soon. And I like how to explain, like I feel super weak, like no energy at all. Like even walking is like a challenge for me now. And it's been about 10 days and it's hard, super hard.
Yeah.
And I can't even dance, and I think that's the worst.
It's okay.
I didn't take
It's
that work.
temporary. I'm sure in a few days
I know.
you'll be back to normal. So get well soon. We're all sending you good vibes and being you some healing. And I know you'll
I'm
be
taking it.
real
I
soon.
receive.
Good, good.
Yeah,
Rest.
I'm healing. Yes,
Take the time to
thank
rest.
you.
When we get ill with anything, that's always body and source's way of saying still, be still. And I know it's frustrating, but it's the nature of the way that they communicate with us. So we have to be patient. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
on a final little note for today, the
thank
last
you.
thing I guess I'll chat with you guys about is that I was in the hospital all day today and all day yesterday. And it was a very interesting experience that got me thinking about something that is kind of similar and on this wavelength. So I had had some visions about this experience in the hospital. So I knew exactly what it was going to be like. And I knew it was going to be very painful for me. And, you know, Rich was so cute. He was like trying to be positive. He's like, I think it's going to be fine. It's not going to hurt. You're going to be fine. And I was like, they already showed me, like, I already know what they're going to do to me. So like, I have to be prepared, you know? And so I went into the hospital. They give you some tablets, some pills. Basically, if anyone doesn't understand, for some people, after a baby doesn't survive, for some reason, the mother's body doesn't get the memo that a miscarriage should take place. So they call it a missed miscarriage, meaning my body all this time doesn't know that the baby didn't survive. And so you can wait a period of time and call it expectant and hope that your body gets the information and will just pass it naturally. But after a certain window of time, you develop the risk of infection and you can no longer wait for this to happen naturally. I waited the extent of the time, about 5 weeks, and then you can't wait anymore. So the first line of defense that is the least dangerous is to take some pills. They put one in your cheek and one up in there, and it's supposed to cause a contractions in the uterus and the expulsion of everything. But in this case, they did it for me twice, and it would not start. I was just in the most excruciating pain that you could ever imagine in your life, doing everything I could to maybe not scream. I was becoming physically ill from the pain, but nothing would start to bleed. So what I thought was really interesting was this experience of having physical pain, right? In my case, I knew in the back of my mind that it was a temporary experience, and maybe that helped me to get through this a little bit easier. But it was so interesting how the introduction of physical pain and physical stress on my body caused my mental state to do so many different things and required so much more active energy to keep my brain in alignment. Like at times I really had to vocally speak like, I'm okay, this is passing, like this is just physical pain. This physical pain is letting me know that I'm alive. You know, at some point they were trying to get into a vein over here, and it was like I was like torture. They were like digging into my arm and no blood was coming out. And Ricky was laughing and was like, I knew you were a robot, because like there's like no vein in there, like no blood coming out. And so while it was happening, I'm thinking to myself what I always teach you guys, which is that we have to kind of find love in all of these situations, even the ones that are not ideal or not favorable. And I was thinking to myself while I was going through this pain, this is how you know you're alive. Like, this is how you know you're in it. Like, this pain and this experience is showing you that like your body is real in this experience and it's fragile in this experience. And you know, it was just a very, I had to keep talking to myself all the time. And if I didn't for even 2 seconds, my brain was like, you're going to die. You're dying. Like, that's the only thought that my brain could come up with if I wasn't consciously keeping it in line was the worst case scenario. Right. And what I got into the mindset of realizing was, and it's funny because we came home and Richard turned on this show on Netflix called The Tinder Swindler. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. It's about a guy on Tinder who's, you know, taking money from these people, and you're watching it being like, these people are sending this person money. Like, you can't really believe it at first. And you're like, I wouldn't send anybody $5 on there, like this crazy person, you know? But I start thinking like, well, what is it really that makes people do stuff like this? And I started realizing it's very similar to what I was dealing with at the hospital. It's this feeling of, if I have emotions that are intense and then I have a thought, that thought must be true, because we're really taught that like how you feel matters a lot. And when I eventually, because the pills didn't work, I had to go in for a surgical procedure under a general anesthetic. And they first gave me like 2 doses of morphine. I don't know if you guys have ever had a drug like this. I don't even take Tylenol for a headache. So if you give me morphine, I'm basically, I'm talking to unicorns out here. It's like very, very intense on my body. That's very clean. I never take anything. So I was already like a little bit loopy, but at that point I would have pretty much taken anything because the pain was so bad. And then they decided they had to wheel me into this surgical place. And it was a top-notch hospital. It was as beautifully done as it could possibly be. But if any of you have ever had a surgical procedures are scary. Like you're kind of naked. People are putting things on you and you're like strapped on this bed. And then in my case, I was like kind of spread eagle because I was in one of those like gynecology chairs. So it's very like jarring and traumatic on your system. And automatically, once I was in that room, I start kind of panicking again. In my brain, I'm thinking, oh my God, like this is terrifying. Like, plus they're speaking Portuguese, so I don't even know what they're saying. So you can really like start to get away from yourself, In my head, I'm thinking, what if I just rip this out of my arm and just take off running in my fishnet underwear and like no one ever sees me again? Like I'm just not doing it. Like you can't make me. I can't be in here, right? And on the other side, I'm thinking to myself, it's almost over. This is a phenomenal hospital. Many women have gone through this. You can do this. You are badass. You are tough. You have never run from anything. This is what is best for you. You have to stay, right? And so what I'm thinking here is I'm having this extremely emotional reaction, right? I'm in fear, really, and I'm in unknown experience. And I have two voices, one that is telling me from soul and from spirit, you are okay. You are protected. This voice is calm. This voice is steady. And I have one voice that is just like, girl, get up, get out of here, run, take off, don't say anything, change your name, move to another country, forget the whole thing ever happened, which I know I can't do, but it was really tempting to take off running. But I think in this experience, this is what happens, right? I'm sure that this woman on this Tinder swindler show had this emotional reaction. She felt connected to somebody. And then she had these two voices, one saying, girl, I don't know. And the other one being like, no, you really should do it. And this person depends on you and da, 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 da. And you have to really do the work to know which voice is the one that is speaking to you from here, because this is the voice that's going to keep you out of trouble. Yeah, this is the heart-centered voice that is connected to your source, your spirit, your God. This is where your answers come from, right? Everything else is background noise and liable to get you into some kind of trouble. So I think we need to maybe remove the idea that just because something is more intense, that means it's right. Yeah, just because the voice that was telling me to get up out of there and take off running was a little bit louder or more like persistent, it wasn't the voice that was right for me. I actually was very much protected and I was in phenomenal hands. And once the procedure was over, the pain was completely gone and I'm done now. My life will move on. It will move forward. I am perfectly fine. Not one complication. It was just scary for a few minutes and that's it. And I had to keep calm and I had to really, really manage my brain and I had to manage my anxiety and I had to drown out the more persistent, louder voice that was telling me, run, this is bad. You gotta get out of here. I'm freaking out, What I found was really helpful was at one point, I looked over at the woman who was going to do anesthesia for me. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm panicking. And she was like, really? You look very calm. And I was like, girl, I'm panicking. Like, I'm really panicking. And she just like rubbed the top of my head and she said, all you have to do is take a deep breath and listen to the quiet voice. And I was like, what? I was like, are you in the program? Are you in the family chats? Where the hell you get that from? Like, how did you know to tell me that? But it's true. The voice that is speaking to you is often not the screaming voice. It's often not the panicked voice. It's the quiet voice that's like, either it's okay or it's not okay. This is not a good thing, you know? And the other voice that maybe is overpowering it, being like, it's fine, don't worry about it, just do it. You know, you got to do it. You're a savior, you're a hero. You know, you also have to remember that when you have an emotional response, if it's in any way similar to an emotional experience you've had in the past, it's likely that you're going to pull up like a loop back to that emotional experience that has already happened. So it's likely that you can actually get answers from something that happened to you 5 years ago that actually is not answers for now. It's just a loop that's reminding you, hey, last time this happened, do you remember how you felt? Well, here's that loop for you again. It's kind of like a record player being like, oh, here's track number 58. Remember when we played track 58 5 years ago when you were in the hospital and you were freaking out? Here it is again. See if you remember it, you know? And you have to be the one that's like, no, we're not playing that track. We're stopping that. We're doing something different. But I just think it's interesting that we have to learn to master our mindset and be discerning and not just have a feeling and then just go 150 miles an hour with a feeling if there's an inclination or indication that there's an opposing experience as well. And like I said, there almost always is. You're never really going to get just one thing, especially if you're in a hyper emotional experience where you think you're in love with somebody or you're in fear or you're in an environment that's completely new. It's not so easy to be discerning. You have to really take the time and you have to really, you know, you have to control your mind. Otherwise, your mind will control you, you know. And as a nice, like, little anecdote, at one point when the pain got to be really bad, I thought to myself, I'm just going to call out and ask for help. So I did. And I just started saying, like, please, like, this is my limit. Like, I've done as much as I can do by myself. Like, I really need help. Like, please, God, help me. And I said it a couple of times, and then I took a deep breath, and it must have been 10 seconds. And all of a sudden I got 3 knocks on the door, and 3 women walked in, and they all were like immediately at my side. One of them had morphine in her hand. The other one was like rubbing my head. This one was rubbing my leg. And they were like, you're fine. You have to know you're fine. Like, this is completely normal. We know how painful it is, but this is normal. So please don't panic. We're going to take you in for surgery. And it was like within a minute, like, they came with the pain medication. They came to calm me down. They came to tell me I was okay. And, you know, I think that's how we have to accept the signs. You know, we talked about this last time too, that we ask for signs and we ask for help, but then we don't recognize it when it comes in. And so as soon as they walked out, I looked at Rick and I was like, you know what that was, right? And he was like, what? And I was like, they walked in 10 seconds after I called out for help. And he was like, oh yeah. He's like, I didn't even put that together. He's like, but absolutely. He's like, and with 3 knocks on the door, you know, for anybody who knows, 3 is a holy number of the Trinity. So like, it was just so clear that they were answering me and that they were sending people to me, because of the 6 hours I was in the hospital, people only really came in if I called them on the button. It was very quiet. You know, people weren't really coming in and out of my room very much. So for them to come in right at that moment without me having summoned them like on the button, I knew that was my answer, that I was protected and that everything was okay. And I tell you, it was the hardest like 20 minutes of my life on that operating table, waiting for that general anesthesia to kick in, because I was ready to make a bolt for it like a damn cartoon. But, you know, in learning to listen to the quiet voice, to the one that was more consistent, the one that was steady, and also just being honest and speaking how I felt to somebody and saying, like, I'm really panicking, you know? And she was like, okay, I know, it's okay. You know, it's all the things that I've been explaining to you guys. And it's stuff that when it happens to me in real time, I like to reiterate it for you, because it's clarification and confirmation for me that the concepts that I'm teaching are accurate and they are working, right? I did not get to go through today without pain. I was in major physical pain. I did not get to go through today without fear. I had fear. I was afraid. You know, at multiple points, I was really, really afraid. But I got through today in a very mindful and present way. I didn't hate the experience. I didn't curse the experience. I didn't why me the experience. I took it in, I stayed present, I asked for help, I showed gratitude, I stayed calm, and I ultimately mastered and came out on the other side of an experience much stronger than it could have really gone, right? So just something to think about, that these concepts, they do help, and they do work, and they will get you at least halfway through something, right? They won't, maybe not take you all the way, depending on what you're dealing with, but they are going to help you and make it so that if you're using them, you're in a stronger position than you are if you're not. That's what I can absolutely say, and I'm a testimony for it at this stage. Does anybody have any other questions for me? Yeah, Katie.
I was it's on creativity.
Mhm.
I was doing journaling, and a lot of what I noticed was that it was mainly dance and like journaling, meditating. So I can really think of other things. If you had any ideas like how to be more creative in your everyday life kind of stuff.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, this is a good question that I meant to actually get on for you guys, was how do you unlock and harness and amplify creative energy? For anyone who doesn't know, your creative energy is seated in your sacral chakra, which is your second chakra. And so a lot of the times doing a nice sacral chakra meditation, specifically either with an intonation or with, a guided experience that is focusing on the sacral chakra, we're putting a little stone kind of right over your pelvic bone. The sacral chakra's color is red, so it's often nice to use a stone of that color for those specific and targeted meditations. Those are nice. That's a nice way to kind of amplify creative energy. But for a lot of people, this is a different experience. Like, everyone is a little bit different in what makes them creative. For me specifically, I love to just do things that I love to do, and I love to do things outside. So anything for me in nature is going to amplify my creative energy, whether it's doing a little yoga outside, doing a small stretch. In the mornings, I like to just go outside and turn my face to the sun for like 5 minutes with my eyes open. Even like having a little bit of sunlight on your retina is really good exposure for your like brain. It puts your mind in a creative experience. So I love to be outside. I like to stargaze at night. I like to hike. I like to eat my breakfast outside. And if you can't be physically outside, then even just at a window where you're able to face sun, be, anywhere outside. And grounding is another great one. Going outside with bare feet on grass or beach. And actually, I know Jenna's life is about grounding, but I'm pretty sure you're on cement over there. Try to get on some grass, some beach. Look at these dirty grounded feet. Get them out of here. No. But yeah, that's a great experience for me personally. But I think honestly, nature is a creative key for everyone, but you have to try it and let me know. Other things I love to do are try to get into things that I love to do that let me go a little bit off the map. So for example, I love to cook. And of course I have ways of cooking things that I really like to do. But on days that I'm like, you know what, I want to amp up my creativity today, I try to specifically do something a little bit different. Even if I'm making something I always make, I try to change up something or add an ingredient or do something a little different in the presentation. So I start trying to be creative and do things a little bit different just from the beginning. Honestly, from the beginning of the day. Sometimes I'll honestly, even while I'm brushing my teeth, I feel like that's such a boring thing. I'll come up with like something else I have to do while I'm brushing my teeth. And for 2 minutes, I'll like walk back and forth, or I'll like do calf raises, and I'll like try to think of creative ways to spend the 2 minutes brushing my teeth. So it's like kind of how can you infuse stuff that you do all the time with something that's a little bit different, just a little out there or a little bit creative, really. And then once you're doing that, you're kind of already gearing your mind to be in this creative place. That way, later on, if you're going to do something bigger, like choreograph a dance or write a paper or write a poem, you've already been in this mindset of being a little outside the box all day long, just in the small things that you did. And, that works really well for me. I try not to. I know people love habit, and I know that habit in a lot of ways is essential for progress and for creation and for winning. So I won't say you shouldn't have habit, but I will say that my habits are never exactly the same. I'm never somebody who wakes up and has exactly this coffee and exactly this fruit at exactly this time, right? I have fluidity to the things that I do and I allow them to move. So if I always have fruit for breakfast, that's my always, but the fruit is always different. Or sometimes I add a little honey and sometimes I don't, or sometimes some cinnamon and sometimes I don't, or sometimes it's in a smoothie and sometimes it's in a bowl. And I try to vary the things that I'm doing to some degree so that it's not just, paint by numbers every day. So there is, and the same thing with like my meditation. Some people say you should meditate in the same space, same place. I never do. If it's nice outside, I meditate outside. If it's not nice, or if I want to be someplace else, I'll sit in an armchair, I'll sit on my bed, I'll sit on the floor, I'll sit, anywhere and meditate. It's sometimes if I'm just out and I like a place that I am, I'll start meditating right there in the middle of everything. So, it's just, for me, it's about, yes, consistency in the things that I do, but spontaneity in the way that I do it that allows my brain to always be on this pathway of creativity. Does that make sense? Cool. Well, guys, I'm really glad we got to talk today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this chat. If you do have any more questions, don't be afraid to inbox them to me. Oh, Jen, you want to see CC? Let me get her. Hold on. Charlie.
Hi.
Hi. Come here. You want to
Charlie.
meet Charlie? Oh, here she comes. Here she comes.
Delaney wants to see her. That's Charlie. Isn't she cute? You said her name was Cece. It is Cece.
Yes.
Why'd you call
Cece's her nickname. Look at her feet. Look at her feet.
She's cute, huh? Oh.
She's
How you
messy.
feeling?
I'm good. I'm good now. I feel great, actually. And I'm happy. And we're through the woods on this physical journey finally. So I can move on and not worry about it anymore.
Yep. Oh, she must be.
She's so happy.
This is my.
I'm not Charlie. My name is.
I miss her so much. I'm glad you're feeling better.
I love you guys. I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Charlie, girl, too rough.